I'm the Frame Runner, and today we're diving into everything new in Soulframe with the Preludes 11 update. Preludes 11 brought a ton of fresh new stuff, from sub-boss farming to Hues and the brand new Totems and Runes system. So I'll be breaking down all of these new things you can do within this update and how to go about doing them. Keep in mind that this video is specifically for the new content in Preludes 11. If you're a new player and you're wondering how to begin your journey in Soulframe, I've made a detailed beginner's guide to help you get started, which I'll link in the cards, and you could come back to this video later. Also, there are going to be timestamps in this video if you are looking for something specific, but anyways, let's get started. We'll start with the new Fable, the Bromius Fable. To start this one, all you have to do is head over to this location on the map where you'll find a tree with sap leaking from the bark. Interact with it and that'll kick off the Fable, and by the end of the Fable, you'll be able to craft the new Bromius Pact at the blacksmith in the Nightfold. Now on to sub-bosses. Currently there are 8 sub-bosses and 1 siege boss, and I'll go over where to find them and what important fragments they drop, but one thing to keep in mind is that all of these sub-bosses are on a 3-hour timer, so you can only fight them once every 3 hours per instance, similar to how Mendicant King functions. But before we cover their locations and drops, let's first talk about runes in the new Joineries, as these sub-bosses will drop these new items. Right now there are 3 runes in the game. The Everflame rune, which can only be equipped to melee weapons, the Arcstorm rune, which can be only equipped to caster weapons and fly blades, and lastly, the Alka's Breath rune, which can fit into bows. You can equip these runes to a weapon in the Nightfold, and they'll activate whenever you use your Smite ability in combat. These runes can also be upgraded within the Nightfold, increasing their effectiveness, and I'll talk about how to upgrade them later in the video, specifically in the Totems section. Moving on to Joineries, these work a bit differently now. You can only equip them when you reforge a weapon, and only blessed joineries will reset weapon XP upon reforging. To equip a blessed joinery, your weapon also needs to be of level 30, the max level for a piece of gear. There are 3 rarities that these joineries can come in, rusted being the lowest, tempered being second best, and polished being of the highest rarity besides being blessed. Blessed joineries are blessed by a certain virtue, those being courage, spirit, or grace. These are highly sought after because they can change a weapon's attunement, letting it scale off of a different virtue than it normally would. With the new update, there are currently 4 new types of joineries. The first being Gildar, which can be used on all weapons, the Fable joinery, which can be used only on caster weapons, the Quicksilver joinery, which can only be used on ranged weapons, and the Verite joinery, which can only be used on melee weapons. You can find joineries in chests around Midrath, from mini-bosses at the end of faction tales, or from sub-bosses. Another thing to note is that all joineries can drop from all the main bosses like Mendicant King, Nimrod, and the Vadgar Stag. But here's where each type usually shows up most. The Gildar joinery usually drops from Durmak chests and Durmak faction tale mini-bosses. The Fable joinery usually drops from Neathans and Crypt of Circade chests, as well as the Glades faction tale mini-bosses. The Quicksilver joinery usually drops from Glades chests and Glades faction tale mini-bosses. And lastly, the Verite joinery usually drops from Overworld chests and Overworld faction tale mini-bosses. Now that we know about the new runes and joineries, it's time for the sub-boss locations and their key drops. Starting off with Discharged Nimrod, he can be found here on the map, and he drops the Everflame rune and the Fabled joinery. Next is the Thrice-Bound Impid, which can be found here on the map, and he drops the Mockery Ilk, Binds, and Delthrot fragments, which is the helmet, chest piece, and greaves for a new Mockery type armor set. He also used to drop the fragments for the new weapons named Tessard, Stalton, and Nurash, but those now drop from regular Mockery enemies instead, so it might be a little bit easier to farm them as you won't have to wait out a 3-hour timer. The next sub-boss is Kabucha, which can be found here on the map, and he drops the entire Arbearer armor set, along with Marrow's Bane, a new cleaver type weapon, and the Gildar joinery. Then there's Etheldred the Weaver, which can be found here. He drops the Alka's Breath rune, the new weapon Witten, and he also drops the Quicksilver joinery. Next is the Nell Knight sub-boss, which can be found here, and he drops the fragments for Witten, a new weapon, and the Verite joinery. Next is the Wraith of Wastes, which can be found here on the map, and he drops the Urstroot staff, the Arcstorm rune, a Fable joinery, and a talisman called Wazard's Wish. The next sub-boss is Gralseeker Rathos, which can be found here on the map, and he doesn't drop anything new in terms of weapon or armor fragments, but he does drop Grin and Blitzel fragments, and also the Gildar joinery. And then there's Sincure Errant Goth, which can be found here on the map, and he also doesn't drop anything too new besides the Fable and Verret Joineries. And then there's the new siege boss located in Fort Cairnhold, which is here on the map, and he drops fragments for Dwellian, a brand new sword. The next thing I want to talk about is Hues, which is basically color dyes for your armors, and in total there are 5 craftable hues. The first accessible one is Verminia's Brines, which comes along with doing Verminia's Quest, and if you've already done Verminia's Quest, then you should already have this color palette. Then there's the 3 faction exclusive hues, starting with Sigil from the Silent Rose faction, Rhiannon's Flame from the Kith of Kings faction, and Epina's Forests from the Alka's Children faction. Each of these hues are fairly cheap as they only cost 100 faction standing each. It's also worth mentioning that each faction has received a new exclusive armor set that you can buy along with their hues. And finally, there's Verminia's Memoir, which is unlocked by leveling up your bond with Verminia by crafting the previous hues. To craft these hues, you'll first need to gather different plants from throughout the world, and most of these are plentiful and easy to spot, but there are some that are a little bit more difficult to obtain. For example, there's one called Synod's Maiden that will only grow in polluted areas. Along with hues, Bestitching has been added, which is basically a transmog system. You can now change how your gear looks without changing its stats, and you can do this by visiting Verminia and using Moonsteel threads, which can be bought from Avocot for 15 arc each, the premium currency in Soulframe. You should also already have some free arcs and Moonsteel threads in your account to be able to test this feature. Now onto totems. These can be equipped in the same slot area where you equip your runes in the Nightfold. You can equip 3 per weapon at first without a rune equipped, and these totems provide buffs like attack speed, increased smite chance, stability, and more. You can obtain them by freeing caged animals throughout the world, and you can also get them by sneaking up on animals in the wild and using the same buttons as you would to smite an enemy. It will prompt you to play a short musical sequence, and you'll receive the animal's totem along with a new currency depending on how well you played the melody. This new currency is called Harmony. Harmony is used to upgrade both runes and totems, increasing their effectiveness. You can upgrade runes and totems by having whichever totem or rune you want upgraded equipped. Then you simply hover over which totem or rune you want upgraded, and in the bottom left there will be an upgrade button to do so. Lastly, we've got Talismans, which you can equip in the Nightfold for extra buffs. First, there's Synod's Belljar, which I've heard can give you +5 courage, and they are found in rare ode chests. Then there's Orengal's Fang, which can be found in rare Glades of Anduran chests, Dire Skull, which can be found in rare Midrath chests, and Wazard's Wish, which I mentioned earlier, can be found from the sub-boss, the Wraith of Wastes. And that's everything new in Soulframe with the Preludes 11 update. If this video was helpful to you and you'd like to see more, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel as it helps a lot and is greatly appreciated. Anyways, it's been the Frame Runner, thank you for watching, and hopefully, more in the future.